She brought the career advice. Now sit back and relax while you get advice that will take you to the next destination in your career or business. And now, Katrina Brittingham.
Hello, hello, hello. It is Katrina Brittingham, your navigator on the road to success. You brought your favorite beverage, or at least I did, and I am bringing the advice. We do not have our co host today because we are on an off day. Monday, as everyone knows, was Valentine's Day. And because of that, I had Valentine's Day plans, and I'm sure you may have too. So, in consideration, we just moved the show to accommodate that. So, our topic for today is what you should consider and the factors you should consider before relocating your business. This has a personal effect for me since I recently moved because I had a change in my life and I had to move my business as well in this. And I did consider some things. I did do some research and everything before I relocated, but there were some things that came up. So we're going to go through the things that you should consider and some of the things that I ran into with relocating my business. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm virtual. So certain things were lower for me in cost, but I did still ran into things. When you move, when you're doing different things, you run into different things and different obstacles through it. It was only supposed to be 2 weeks for me to get set up and have everything together, but it actually took me 2 months to get everything settled. And of course, with the increased time, was money. It was money and cost of the moving and waiting to get the location that I was going to have. It was a cost in um, a delay in not doing business operations because of the different things that happened. I moved to Georgia. I'm now in Smyrna. So, hello from Smyrna, Georgia. And a week into coming down here, my faithful, trusty car that I had just finished paying off, the engine decided it wanted to blow. So, had the cost of getting transportation. My car is a business expense because I use it to travel mainly for business purposes. I moved to a city that was a big commuter city. Wasn't commuter when it comes to public transportation, which is Philadelphia, um, in the Philadelphia area, which has transportation with public transportation um, there. So I was in a city that I didn't recognize and no public transportation like that. They have some, but when you're in the country, there are a lot of places that public transportation does not take you. So these are the things that you want to consider, some of the things. And that was just a little summary before we went in to it. So I have some notes here. So when you're relocating a business, something that should be done is something that should be done carefully with some forethought, some analysis before you make that move. You have to consider the type of business that you have because we have entrepreneurs and small business owners that are corporations, so they have stakeholders as well as customers. If you're an LLC, you may not have any stakeholders, but you may have clients and customers that you have to consider. If you have employees, you want to consider them too. So, as a leader of your organization, the last thing you want to do is to make a decision that could severely impact your stakeholders, your customers, and your bottom line because it will result in a financial loss for you, a great financial loss. That being said, the weight of this activity is an important process for all the people that are involved in this process. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, let's look at what relocating your business actually entails for you. Okay. So, relocating a business can mean several things. Okay. It can refer to moving your office downtown versus the suburbs. It can also mean moving your office from one city to another, or one state to another, or one country to another. Each of those has a potential risk for your business that you need to consider when you're relocating. Okay. So, when you're relocating a business, it can mean a plethora of different things, but it should not be taken lightly. Okay. Relocating a business has financial impacts in both the short and long term for your business. Okay. It is not cheap to move your business, just like it's not cheap if you're moving yourself from a house, from an apartment to a house, or you're moving from one house to another. You want to consider all of those things. It's just as important and just as crucial as moving your physical location if you were moving your family, because there's an impact to them. Like if you are moving and you have a family, you have to consider the schools, you have to consider work for your spouse. If your spouse works, what the impact is going to be, what the cost of living is going to be where you're moving to, because cost of living can change and vary greatly, even if you're moving from a city, your city, the downtown area, to a suburb. There are different costs associated with that, or if you're moving from the suburbs to the city. Case in point, when I worked for a corporation in my career, and this was pretty early on in my career, I worked and lived in the suburbs. They decided to move my department to the headquarters, which was in the city. There were people who lived in the city who went. I came along as a senior person reluctantly because I didn't actually want to change location. And what they didn't consider was the fact that I was in the suburbs. I worked in the suburbs. I lived in the suburbs. When you went into the city, you had city tax, a tax that we did not have in the suburbs. We paid about $50 a year for city tax in the suburbs, but in the city, we were paying maybe like $80 every paycheck, which amounted out to a pay cut for me. Also, I went from driving 10 to 15 minutes to work to having to catch public transportation into the city because of the cost of driving and parking. So it was a big adjustment for myself, moving into the city. And then I had to actually change because the expense of being in the suburbs, I had to actually move to the city to kind of cut the cost of the travel costs with gas, with parking and things like that. So you want to consider what that is. And we're going to go deeper into that later on. But just to give you an example of how relocating, and the business didn't locate, they just relocated employees. So consider if you're taking your whole business or a portion thereof and moving it there, and you want your talent to go there, because your talent will have a choice of whether they move or not. And you don't want to put a hardship and a strain on your staff. Okay. So you want to carefully assess. So it may be a good fiscal decision for your business as a, as a whole, where you look, when you look at it, but you have to look at the impacts to employees, which will cost you. Okay. So let's go over some of the biggest factors when it comes to moving your business. Okay. The first thing you want to consider, and I said it before, financial impact is the cost. Okay. This is the most self explanatory reason to consider carefully where you move your business to. Okay. It is also the most complex reason, and that is why it's at the top of the list. So that's the secondary or hidden costs or hidden things that could happen when you are relocating a business. Again, we talked about I came to a city. I thought I had everything together. I thought I had my transportation together. And then the car goes, is that an expense that you have thought about? Because it was something that I definitely didn't think about because I had a car. The car was well maintained. So I was not expecting for it to go down at the time. And then what are the implications of purchasing a car when you're new to a city? When you're transferring over licenses and things like that, registrations, titles, and everything for your car, even the insurance on the car is an impact. And so overnight, when I had 30 days to transfer everything over, overnight I had to do things right away because I had to get a new car. And when you have a different address on your license, than the state that you're in, then it opens up you up for certain things and questions of are you going to be here and why are you purchasing a car and this that and the third. So it's things that happens that you have to consider. And then it's like, oh, well, when are you transferring over your license? These different things, that's a hidden complication and it's a hidden cost that most people don't consider when they move a company or even if they move to another state, especially if you thought that you already had certain things in place. Okay. So, first, you must consider moving from one location to another. The bigger the distance, the higher the potential cost for the move. For example, if you're moving a company that has 4,000 employees across the country, that would be a lot more expensive than if you moved 10 people across town. And I moved pretty much not necessarily across the country, but I went from one end of the country down to the other end of the country. I was way up in the north in Pennsylvania. I came all the way down to Georgia. So, for those who know geography, if you're moving from up there and down there, you only have one more state that if you keep on driving, you're going to be in the ocean and not even in the country. So that was a consideration to take into account. Okay. However, in both of these scenarios, you want to assess the cost, benefits, and see if it outweighs the actual cost of making the move. For me, it outweighed the actual cost of it did not outweigh the actual cost of making the move. Number one, any I didn't have any employees at this time. I tell everyone I'm virtual, so any of my employees are virtual. I have people who work for me all over the country, so they did not have to move with me. But when you consider that, there is an expense with that. There's also an expense if those employees decide that they do not want to move with you, because then you would have to consider how you're going to fill that space and that talent. Okay. Next, you want to consider the overhead costs of your new location and how it will impact your business on a day to day basis. Things like your lease, if you're leasing space, your mortgage payments, if you're going to purchase a new house, because housing costs vary from city to city and state to state. Utilities, there's a difference in the cost of utilities. Shipping any materials you need, business materials, shipping things when it comes to relocating your home, and wages. Okay. All of these things will be impacted by your move in some way or another. Remember, earlier we talked about moving from the suburbs into the city. That was a cost and it was an impact. Okay. So if you were to move from Wichita and you move to California, the rent for your office space and the cost will increase significantly. Okay. Next, you want to think about the hidden costs of moving. These hidden costs could be different for every organization. It definitely was different for me. Okay. So it is important that for the people involved in the relocation decision to thoroughly assess financial surprises that could show up as a result of the move. I was lucky because I did have a budget for moving, but I also had some padded funds just in case because things do go wrong. And I did consider if things did go wrong. Um, it still hit me and everything because the cost of certain things that happened were things that were beyond my control and not really in my view. So I did spend a little bit more than I wanted to. But because I had that padded savings, it did not impact me as much as it could have. All right. So, building on the previous example about moving from Wichita to California, if you were to relocate to California, would you be able to pay for the cost of all of your employees to relocate? If you are relocating as a company, that is not something that you want to put on your employees because it was not a voluntary thing for them. They did not decide to move and relocate. You decided to relocate the company. All right. And there is a cost for that because you have to consider paying for relocation costs, them or a portion thereof for them to actually make the move, for them to pack up their house and things like that. Where are they going to stay in the interim of getting a home? Are you going to assist them with getting a home? How long is it going to take for them to get a home? These are the things that you want to consider. Okay. So it could be pretty costly for you as an organization to relocate your employees. So, more than likely, you will have a substantial increase in their wages as well. Okay. Because you have the issue of the cost of living. The cost of living in California is significantly different and higher than Wichita. Okay. And because you're going from Wichita to California, that is a pretty big move. Many of your employees may not want to relocate, they may like where they are. That's why they selected your organization because it was close to them, it was close to the schools that their children lived in, it was convenient for them. So, depending on your attrition rate, how many people decide they want to stay where they are and not go with you, you have the cost of training other people, finding talent. For organizations, there is a cost for looking for employees from the job boards, any recruiters, the time it's taking you to select the person, how is it going to affect the work and your workflow, when you're hiring. So these are the things that you want to take into consideration. So, depending on the skill sets that you need for your organization and the qualified talent pool that is available in your new location, you may have to increase the spend on training and getting people up to speed. Even if you have qualified people, you still have to train them on the processes and procedures of your organization and how much is that going to cost you. These are some things that you want to look at as well and assess. For example, there are a ton of workers who may work in data analytics or something in Wichita, Kansas. Do you have the same amount of people or a want for that talent in the city, state, country that you're moving to? We are in a different time where you have a lot of remote workers. So, you can hire from different places, but is your business equipped to handle remote work? Are you a retail location where you have to have people on site? These are some things that you need to consider. And is that talent for that location, for the workings of your operations? Is there a talent pool for that? So, employee and stakeholder impact, we already started talking about the employee impact for it. People want to work for companies that make it easy for them to come to work. I gave you the example about how I went from driving 10 to 15 minutes to work to having to take public transportation. What I did not mention is that now that 10 to 15-minute commute went to an over an hour commute and three forms of transportation. You want to consider that. You do not want to tax your people when it comes to that. Not only that, it was a cost for each mode of transportation. In the winter time, in the winter months, it was havoc with the transportation, delays in transportation, being cold when I went used to be in a warm car. These are things that you need to consider, and it will cause your people to leave the organization if they have to do that. You have to also consider in bad weather them, having to take their kids to school if school is closed, those types of things, what they have to put in place. Are they going to need a babysitter now? And they didn't need a babysitter. Remember, 5, 10, 15 minutes, I could be home by the time my child gets home, potentially, depending on the hours that I work, or I'm home in 10 to 15 minutes. Whereas over an hour, I have my child at home or trying to pay for childcare in the interim, which childcare can be very expensive. Okay. So, and what I have is like, imagine having to do something extremely different every day. And it's not even picking your child up for school, it's getting your child to school. Now I have to leave a whole hour, hour and a half earlier for work. How is that going to impact me getting my child to school? Am I going to have to pay for before care and after care now because of this? And what is the cost of that? So I know for me, it dissuaded me from wanting to be at that company um like that. But then I considered some things. I got a couple promotions again that allowed me to get the housing that I did, but it was definitely a taxing situation that I did not account for or even want to have to deal with. Okay. So then you want to think about, even if, say, someone wanted to commute, we mentioned that parking was expensive, which is why I had to do public transportation. So if, and parking was not ideal, they had parking lots around, which were very expensive. On street parking was pretty much non existent because we were in a downtown, busy downtown area. So you want to deal with the winter months if it means walking several blocks from public transportation or even from parking to get to the building. In Philadelphia, we had ice, we had snow, we had all kinds of hazards that walking was hazardous in the wintertime. Okay. So to deal with this, your organization can build a parking lot if you have the funds for that, lease a lot if you have funds for that, or reimburse for parking or transportation expenses. But once again, this will impact the cost of your move and must be taken into account. Larger organizations do reimburse for transportation, but it's part of a commuter spender account, which yes costs the organization, but it's also costing the employee out of their pay a certain amount to save up the money to have to go to your transportation. And what they would normally do is it would be a discounted rate for it. So it's still a cost, and it's a cost out of your employee's pocket. So let's calculate that. They have a cost for the transportation, they have a cost for childcare, they have a cost for paying more money out of their pocket when it comes to local taxes and expenses, when it comes to lunch, all kinds of things. And things could be expensive depending on what's going on. Next, the location should be a spot that's easily accessible from a perspective. No one wants to commute to the office 60 minutes or more. So make sure that you take that into consideration when you are relocating to a new city, a new state, or a new country. If your clients or customers frequently fly in to visit or travel to you, you want to make sure that the office is a decent distance from airports, parking facilities, public transportation, trains, things like that. Planes, trains, and automobiles. So you want to consider all of those things. Um, we mentioned taxes. So the next thing on the list is taxes. So when moving counties, states, or even countries, it is important to assess the tax situation of your new location. And after I finish this, we are going to go to break because we are almost at the half, and I can't believe it. I thought we were going to have a shorter day, but apparently not. Apparently, I talk too much. Um, so, depending on where you're moving to, your original location, taxes could have a huge impact on your profitability in the organization. But what you also want to remember is that your employees pay half of those taxes out of their paycheck. So you could be paying your person a certain amount and now they have a pay cut. Or even if you give them a raise, they still have that cut of the taxes. Local, state, federal. Federal pretty much stays the same, but state and city can change drastically. Okay. Some businesses can also receive tax credits that can help you with your move. So, having an office in different locations, you want to weigh what those tax implications will be. Okay. And before we go on, we're going to go for a short break. So, I will see you in 30 seconds.
The business and entrepreneurial world is full of talk. Talk, 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 talk. Enough. We take everything you've learned, leverage it, and give you the actual tools you need to put all the talk into your walk. Attend the conference that's all about action, strategies, and real ROI. Your executive GPS ticket includes access to seminars and workshops where you'll learn business financing, such as loans, grants, venture capital, and angel investors. Business strategies, human capital strategies, such as hiring contractors versus employees. Government contracts. Register today. www.theexecutivegps.com.
All right. So that was the executivegps.com, which is now in Smyrna, Georgia. So if you are in the Georgia area, please contact us so we can help you get venture ready in your business. All right, so we were talking about the cost of relocating your business. All right, and we had someone come on and say that there were some great points. They will have to catch the replay. If you have to come back and catch the replay, please do so. Or if you are catching the replay, please let me know in the comments and say replay. All right. So we are on several platforms as well. So wherever you are, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share or connect or do what you have to do, whatever the platform is. So we talked about businesses having tax credits. Also, you want to consider where you're moving. Some states do offer some other benefits and pluses for you to move to their state and your business to their state. Okay, so you want to consider that and what kind of assistance and things that they have in those states. Georgia is a big business state, so there was some pluses for the business and moving the business to Georgia, and not consider that before moving. So, depending on where you want to move, you want to look and see what you have. I also did find out because when I was considering my move, I told you I have a lot of entrepreneurs in my family, my brother being one. He was like, look, move to Florida. They don't have any state taxes. So, if they don't have state taxes and you want to move to Florida, that might be a move for you and move for your people. And it may be a plus, the fact that you don't have this tax that you have to pay. All right, so that was my little sidebar. We're going back to the topic at hand. The next item on the list is customers. Your clients are the lifeline of your business. Okay, so when relocating to another state, another city, another county, you want to consider your people. Okay. You want to consider your clients. Okay. This could be in a form of increased costs due to your overhead, or it may decrease in cost since you are moving closer to the customer, if that is the reason why you're moving, or it just happens to be a happy plus that you're moving closer to your customer. They will do more business with you because you are closer. So, here are some words of wisdom for you. If your business is overly reliant on one particular client and you move away from that client a distance and they have increased taxes, increased expenses for your product and stuff, it could put your business at a substantial risk. If you move closer and the benefits as far as costs is more favorable, it could have a positive effect on your business. Okay. So even if you were even to lose that relationship with that client, that could destroy your business if you relocated to closer to that person and lost them, or if you move further away and you lost that client, it could have a really big impact on your business. So for that, I would say yes, you want big clients. Yes, you want to have that, but you want to have more than one big client. And if you have an extremely large client, you want to have other clients and clientele that are just as heavy. Even so, if you have 100 smaller clients and you have one big client, if you lose that one client, it may not be as big of an impact as if that you have two clients, small clients, and one large client that's funding your entire business. It's always a dangerous thing to have just one client that funds your whole business, whether you relocate or not, because people are looking and they're shopping around for other client, more cost effective things. And if you end up losing that client, then you're out of business regardless. So that's just a conversation for another day. But you want to consider your clientele. Also, with considering your clientele, if you move to another state, is there a market for your product there? There is something about that. Different states, different counties, different locations will have different needs. So, say you were in Wichita and you made widgets. If you move to California, do they have a great need for widgets? These are the things that you want to consider before you move. And you can say, oh, well, that goes without saying, Katrina. I'm going to look into that. You'll be surprised how many people sometimes don't consider that because they want to work from the beach or, have a sunny climate or a warmer climate. And that's what they're considering. Or they're looking and saying, oh, well, it's cheaper to be here. But do they really need your product there? Those are some things that you want to consider. All right. So, with that being said, we're going into the growth capabilities. When relocating your business, it is important to think not only how the new location will impact your short term, but also over the long term of your business. Okay. That is the consideration as far as even having that big client that you're either moving closer to or farther away from. What are the long term impacts if you lose that client? What are the long term impacts if, say, there's no need for what you do in the state that you're in and you ship different places? So, because you could say, oh, I ship different places, I will have clientele, I'll have people who want what I want. But if the shipping costs outweigh it, or is there going to be a delay in shipping, which will affect your clients? Okay. These are the things that you want to consider. I know for myself, just as a client, I love Amazon. About 99.9% of the things I get is off of Amazon. Why? Because they have 2 day shipping, sometimes 1 day shipping, sometimes same day shipping. Yes, I am that impatient shopper that wants my stuff now. And if you have clientele that are like me, and it's a lot of people, when I was talking, I don't know how we end up on Amazon. I think they had me brainwashed, but it's somehow or another in certain conversations, Amazon comes up, and there are a lot of people who want their stuff. So if you move to Spain or something like that, and now you are still shipping your stuff, what is the delay of shipping? What is the cost of shipping from Spain to the US? Or if you were in Spain and you moved to the US, what is the cost of shipping to Spain? Because there are shipping costs. Do you pass that on to your clients as far as the shipping? Because some companies do pass on shipping as part of the expense to the client. How is that going to affect? Are they going to go somewhere else where they don't have to pay for shipping? Or are they going to go somewhere else where the shipping does not take as long? These are the things that you want to consider when it comes to your business. And that is part of a hidden cost, because most people are not considering the cost and the impact of shipping. Sales tax is another thing, because we're talking about state and local. But what about sales tax? Sales tax change depending on the city, the county, the state, the country. So you want to consider those things when you do that. Okay, so make sure you assess your new location and the labor pool. We talked about that, to actually support your growth. So this is not just, oh, the attrition of people leaving. What if your company does blow up and now you have to hire more people to carry the load of the new work? You want to look at things like developers, accountants, lawyers, marketers, social media strategists, just to name a few. And it could be a concern because depending on where you are, do you have the talent pool for that? These are things that you want to consider. But if you need to hire 50 people with a specialized background, you might want to conduct a study to see if the labor pool actually has the talent for to support your business. Okay? This doesn't just apply to human capital. Yes, I say human capital because your employees are valuable. It's one of the reasons why I never, ever, ever liked the saying, oh, you should be lucky you have a job. No, you need to be lucky that someone wants to work for your company. Because if you do not have employees to work your company and they can do the job that you need to have done, then you don't have a business. I'll say that again. And I own my company. Your employees are a major expense, but they're also a major return on investment or ROI for your business. If you don't have people that can actually do the work that you're hiring for, then you don't have a business. You cannot fulfill what you need to fulfill for your clients. So get out of that mentality that you are lucky to have a business. Um, one second. Oh, wow. Okay. Um, Sorry, I was reading the comments. So Amber, who is watching, she's in Toledo and she has a business, Your Computer Needs of Toledo. She was one of our speakers for um, Executive GPS conference. She is awesome. She is a computer guru. She is my go-to person when it comes to that. Um, and she's talking about, she says, it's amazing that I'm talking about this. Um, and she says she's writing and speaking about having another business in Georgia. So she's watching this apparently because she wrote something, but she says she's definitely going to catch the replay for certain things. And I will say, Amber, if you want to talk to me about moving to Georgia, you can contact me offline and we can have an extensive conversation. Okay, so she also said next, get an Amazon urge you can go to. She has an Amazon shop, y'all. So the next time you get an urge for Amazon and I get an urge for Amazon, we can shop on her channel, on her shop. Okay. Thank you so much, Amber, for sharing that. I am somebody who drops uh names and everything like that and promotes people. She has an Amazon shop, y'all. I have an Amazon addiction. Oh Lord, I'm going to be on her shop. Okay. So all right. So it can also apply to the need to grow your facility space. So you might, if you're leasing a place or paying a mortgage on a place, say you have one floor, you have to hire 50 people. Now you have to add another floor. What is the cost for that? Or do you have to get another building or whatever you have to do? I know in Georgia, they have office space that you can lease. You also can purchase land and build a building. If you've done that, what is the cost of building another space or acquiring that space? You want to consider that. So you want to look at, we already talked about the capacity of local shipping. Say you don't use Amazon and you want to look at a local place. One of the things you want to consider too, that I did not, it just did not come up in um, my plan or my purview, is again, when they talk about local shipping, post office. How do they ship? When do they ship? When do you get your mail? Are there delays when it comes to mail? There are all kinds of things that comes up and the hidden things that comes to it. Are you somewhere where it takes a while to get your mail because the post office might be 10 miles away, or well, not even 10 miles away, 100 miles away. Let me say that, 100 miles away. So how is the local post? Okay. What are those impacts to you as far as you getting your mail and your correspondence? When it comes to internet, that's another thing that I didn't consider. I just assumed. I did actually look into internet before I came, and I was like, oh, they have internet. But having the internet companies, you can go from, I came from a metro area where it just seems like you could trip over someone who had internet, um, where you were an internet company. Um, what's the impact? Do you have satellite internet? Are you in a place that has internet hotspots, those types of things? um, I was lucky because there was more than one company who had internet here, and it did not take me long to have it. But when you think about the majors that you see on TV, whatever is in your area, my area was Verizon, Comcast, ACN, all these different places. I couldn't do my business. I couldn't walk out my door without having a flyer. Here, have this internet. I'm like, I have internet. I don't need your internet. Are you in a place where maybe they have one internet company? What is their signal strength? Can it handle your business and the needs of your business? Printing needs, if you have printing needs, do they have a UPS store? Do they have a FedEx store? Do they have a Kinko's? These are the things that you need to consider. That's a hidden cost. That's a hidden, um, uh, I can't think of a word, but the hidden things that can come up that you want to consider. You also want to consider the community impact. Organizations that run a community are interdependent. So you have certain um, companies that may employ most of the town. If you're going to a small town that has maybe like 3,000 people and you're one of the major players there, even if you're a small business, if you're in a small town, even a small business can have a major impact in the community. What will be the impact of you closing and relocating? It will impact your entire organization because, again, you might have people who don't want to move. And you can impact the organization because if you do move and you take in half of the population with you, what is it going to do to that community and the other local small businesses that are around? All right. So, because of this, I would urge you to look at the ethical responsibility of your business. Every business has a local responsibility. You have a responsibility to community, you have a responsibility to your employees. Hence me saying your employees are the ROI, you get a ROI, return on your investment for your employees. Okay. You also get it from your community because a business cannot run if they don't have the community support. And will you have the community support where you're relocating to? Okay. So let me give you an example. I give an example for everything. Let's say your business is the biggest employer in a small town. I said that before. If you relocate the business halfway across the country or from one end of the country to the other end of the country, the amount of jobs available in that community will substantially decline, resulting in a decrease in the town population as they leave for other employment. So if you are a big player in a small town, even as a small business, even if those employees don't go to you, it could impact the town because they leave the town to go to another town to work. And they may actually, again, if you're in a small town, there could be another small town here. If I take and I pick up my whole family and I move to another home in another city, that is going to impact the city that I left. Imagine if 1,000 people do that because your business closed. Imagine if 300 people did it. It will still impact the city. Okay. So this will also, again, like I stated, impact small businesses in the area due to the decreased patronage that they were receiving from the people in this town. There is a lot of things to consider when you are moving your business. There's a lot of responsibility that you have as a business owner. So you want to consider all of this before you make the move to where you move to, or if you are moving, depending on your business. Again, my business was always remote. It was remote way before COVID. My clients were always remote before COVID. And so I did not have that impact. um, there may have been some impact on the community and things like that, but not as great as it would have been had I been a brick and mortar and a whole lot bigger and had a whole lot more employees. So I did consider that as well because I was um, active in my community and helping my community. And when I decided to move, the organizations that I worked with the community, I made sure that they knew that I was moving. I still do provide certain support and things like that, be it virtual. Um, so I did take those things into consideration. So those are some things that you take into consideration. Also, your network, your business networks, your business contacts. Um, if you refer business out, now you're not referring business where you were. Now you're referring business down here. Do you have that network that can help support your business? And also, do you have someone that you can say, okay, this is somebody that I referred work to, where you're leaving, they're really great. And are you able to continue to, provide that pipeline because now you're impacting another business? All right. So we do have another comment. It says, where I am, the major mail distribution was about 7 to 10 minutes away. For a good number of years, now it comes from Detroit. Wow. Believe me, it was a major adjustment. See what I'm saying? 7 to 10 minutes away, now in Detroit. She's in Toledo. So that's a major adjustment. It takes a longer time for her to get her stuff, or if she needs to go to the mail carrier. Sometimes you get packages and things, and they say, oh, you have to go pick it up. And yes, that happened to me. After my car broke, I had things that were being shipped that were bulk items. And they was like, you have to come to the post office. And I'm like, I don't even know where the post office is. And it took me about 2 weeks to try to figure out how to get these packages. So it is a big, big adjustment. So Amber also has computers, accessories, and what did she say? COVID prevention products and supplies on her shop. So if you need any of that, and she is the computer guru. So if you need to get yourself up and running after relocating your business, then she can help you get up and running. Okay, so double duty there. All right. So, and that's something that I did not say. Yes, another consideration with moving your business is the technical piece of moving your business. I did start that by saying the internet and making sure your internet provider is where you are. You also want to consider equipment. Getting equipment. Are you going to need more new equipment? How are you going to move your equipment? How to safely move your equipment, where you're going, how to set the equipment up where you're going. These are things that you want to consider. One of the things that I considered, I have a broadcasting network. The first thing I did when I thought about moving was calling my technician. Hey, I'm thinking about moving here. Will I be okay for this? Will I be okay for this move? How will me moving impact the quality of service that I'm going to provide? So, no problem, Amber. I got your back. You know that I am going to plug you if you have something that can support my viewers, my listeners, and things like that. Most of you know Amber from coming on the shows, from the conference. Y'all know she's the bomb.com. I don't just plug anybody. So thank you for being who you are so that I could refer you. All right. So the decision to relocate a business can have huge impacts and should not be taken lightly. This is in conclusion. And I still cannot believe I did a whole hour by myself on this. I did not think that I was going to be speaking this long on this. And I probably have more to say about it. All right. So, but the decision to relocate a business can have huge impacts to you, to the community, to your customers, and to your employees. And it should not be taken lightly by the leadership. Okay. So, It is important to consider all of the factors involved in relocating a business and then make the best decision for everyone involved. All right. So I was able to do this in an hour. I still have 5 minutes to spare. I want to say thank you so much for those who do support me. And the fact that, again, my relocation took longer than I expected. And that's one of the things that you need to consider too. If your relocation takes longer than you expect, how is it going to impact your employees? How is it going to impact your business as far as the bottom line and cost? Because for every day that there is a delay, there is going to be a cost to you. And how are you able to handle that? You might want to consider having that as part of your plan if things take a little bit longer. Now, again, I did account for the fact that maybe it would take a week or two longer. I did not account for the fact that it would take 2 months longer. And I actually had to make some adjustments and move um, rather quickly to stop the bleed so that I could be sitting in front of you right now. Because if I had continued on a place that I was, I still would not be sitting in front of you with the relocation. So, as a leader, you need to be able to adjust and adjust quickly to get yourself back up and running and up to speed. I had an excellent team with me, and like I said, even my engineer and everything like that, he was checking in to make sure that everything was okay because I had given him a date of coming back, and I had missed that date. Everyone was excellent, and having your team behind you really makes a difference in you moving. So you want to make sure that you have your A team in place. And even with the co-host, he was checking in on me because I had given him some time and everything like that. And he was great. They came up to speed really quickly once I was like, all right, we're doing this. And so having that and having that backup is really, really good. Um, Amber said a whole hour podcasting. Yeah. Thank you so much for the shout out. Um, yes, it was quite a difference in time frames, Amber. And for someone to be like me, who is a little bit of a control freak, it freaked me out. But I was able to get myself together and get the team together and get everyone where they needed to be. And like I said, shout out for having an excellent team who are able to adjust and adjust on the fly. Even with Valentine's Day, my team adjusting on the fly for me and with me. So you want to be able to be flexible um, for your team, and in turn, they will be flexible with you, and having that balance that you need. Um, Amber does have virtual computer consultations, and you can reach her virtually when you're moving. Um, um, yeah. Um, Sorry, I'm a little distracted with reading Amber's comments. Um, some things I'm posting up, some things I'm not because some things are a little bit longer, but please check her out. Um, she can have the virtual consultations to you, whatever platform you use, Zoom, whatever, and she can assist you. And she is fantabulous at putting your things together. So if you are considering your relocation, contact me, contact Amber. I'm your trusty business coach that can help you and help you with your research and things that you need to do. And she can help you with getting your technical things together. All right. And so, um, it just is what it is. If you are considering relocating, please do so with care. Thank you so very much for joining me. And I will see you next week.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of High Tea with Me. To be a guest on the show, contact us via email info@ventureready.net. Thank you again,